Hey, thanks so much, parents, for being here tonight. Thanks for jumping on to the online part and just listening to a few minutes of Pastor Rob teaching. And then thank you for taking a few minutes to just come have a deeper conversation about our elementary phase kids. This is a fun phase, and this is an important phase to start this conversation so that it's not as awkward as maybe starting it in middle school or high school. So, for those of you that I don't know, my name is Anna, and I am the kids director here at First. I am married to Brett, and we have two kids, Hudson, who is 7, and Finley, who is 4. And so we are not experts at all. We are just now getting into the elementary phase. We are just now discovering some of this conversation, but we are journeying this with you. And I do have some amazing tools and resources that I just want to share with you. And so tonight, that is my hope. I am not here to be an expert. I am just here to share what we have found, what I have found digging through some of this, and hope that it helps you feel confident, hope that it helps you feel a little bit more equipped to have these conversations with your kids. So thank you for being here. I want you to know from the beginning, you are an amazing parent. You are a great parent, and you can do this. You can have this conversation. You can start to have this conversation. You can create a safe place within your home where your kids know that they can come to you, that you will say nothing is off limits, and you are a safe place, a safe person to always ask questions and always come to. So, as a parent, we've said this multiple times, but you have the responsibility to guide your kids to have sexual integrity, which is what we're talking about tonight. As a parent, you have the responsibility to teach them and to create a safe place for questions and for them to feel like nothing is off limits. And you can do it. God says that we can ask Him for wisdom and He will give it to us. And we know that it is our job as parents to lead our kids, to disciple them, to have conversations. But I don't think God is saying, okay, it's on you, have fun, like I'm out. He wants us to invite Him into this journey. He wants to journey this with us, and He wants to give us His strength, His wisdom, and knowledge to help us lead our kids. And so just know that you don't have to do this on your own, that He will give you wisdom, He will give you strength, but we also want to partner with you to just make it a little bit easier to have these conversations. So hear me say this, and I already saw some of it in the chat. Um, Tonight is not about what maybe you haven't done or what you have done, maybe conversations that you have had and feel like you did it wrong, or conversations that you haven't even had yet. On my way here, or right before I came here, I was just telling Brett, like, okay, we need to do this and this and this after I've been digging into the steps. So tonight is not about that. It is simply about equipping you, helping you feel confident to have some of these conversations. We all have fears that we're messing up as parents, or we're letting our kids have way too much technology time, and that's going to turn into issues. We all have fears that we are messing this up, but we cannot let fear control us, because here's what I know, that all of you want to be the best parent that you can be. All of us are striving to do our best, and you being here tonight is proof of that. None of us are trying to mess up our kids. None of us wake up in the morning thinking, oh, I can't wait to totally screw them up. We want to do our best. And being here today, you are taking steps to be prepared. There are no perfect parents, but we can be prepared parents. And so tonight, we just want to simply prepare and to find some tools and resources to get the conversation going. And that's our goal. There's no way we're going to cover everything in 20 minutes. And so I'm going to make sure that at the end of this, you have links, you have documents, you have everything you need from tonight. So don't feel like you have to go crazy or take a ton of notes. We will give it all to you in a pretty package. So we are here for you. We are here to take some of the prep work out so that you can be confident and equipped to start the conversation at home. The elementary phase, like we already said, matters. Each phase matters, and each phase has opportunities that we can leverage in that phase to help lead our kids and build our kids' foundation. So the elementary phase is super important, and it matters because what we do today or tomorrow or in the next week or months to come can have an impact on their future. And so, as we dive into this topic, it can be scary. And I get that like I've said, haven't lived with older kids yet. And so, there is no judgment. But here is my desire. My desire is that when my kids are older, when my kids are parents, when my kids are sitting in a conversation like this, they say, "Oh, my parents absolutely talked to me about this. My parents always created a safe place where I could come. My parents didn't shy away. It wasn't an awkward or off limits thing. Like I knew I could go to my parents and I did because we created that for them." And so that is my hope for our kids. And I just would invite you into that. So, research shows, and don't let this scare you or feel discouraged, but research shows that by second or third grade, if we have not had any conversation about sex or sexual integrity, we're already too late. That doesn't mean we can't start, but we're already too late, meaning it's already out there in their phase where kids are talking about certain things at school or on the soccer field or whatever. It has already been brought up by second or third grade, and there's been exposure to it. I remember Brett and I took our niece Lucy lunch when she was a kindergartner at Cordell Mason. And we took her lunch and we were sitting at the table. And then back then, they didn't have the separate tables that for the lunch buddies. You got to sit with the class, like get to know the kids. And we were sitting there enjoying McDonald's, whatever. And this little kindergartner says, "Okay, everybody, raise your hand if you're going to have sex tonight." And all the kindergartners' hands went up, and Brett and I were like, ah, they have no idea what they're talking about. But already in kindergarten, Lucy now has heard the word sex and now is curious of, well, what does that mean? What are they going to do tonight? I want to do what they're doing tonight. And so research shows that by second or third grade, we should already be having this conversation, which seems crazy, but it is necessary, like Rob was talking about. I'm sure you can reflect back on the way maybe you were raised, your journey, the way your parents had these conversations, and you can even identify how it has shaped you, how it shaped your thoughts, how it has shaped maybe even your marriage. And so we just want to make sure that as parents, we are doing everything we can to lead our kids to have sexual integrity in a healthy, God desired way. So we are curious people, kids are curious. And that does not mean that because they're curious, because they're asking questions, because they maybe search for something or ask Siri, our kids are already like, well, just ask Siri. Siri will tell us, ask Siri this question or ask Siri this question, or can you Google this? That does not mean they're looking to do something wrong. Kids are just curious, and that's how God created them to be. And so as kids are curious and as questions come up, they're going to want answers and they're going to look for answers. And we want them to come to us with those questions. We don't want them to go Google it on their own. Trust me, I did all kinds of Googling for tonight, and it is not good at all. It is not what we want our kids to do. We want them to come to us. We want them to come to us, not other friends, not Google, not other peers, whatever. In the elementary phase, it is important to have this conversation early and often. And I would even say if you have not started conversation about even body parts or using the correct names for body parts. We're recording all of these, and I want you to go back and watch the preschool one because there's some catching up we probably need to do to build this conversation. This is not a conversation that's going to be a one, okay, we had it done. We are going to have this conversation early, and we're going to have it often for the rest of the time that we have our kids in our house. Elementary kids are caught between childhood and adolescence. And so it's an interesting spot to be. At one moment, kids, maybe fourth or fifth grade, are playing with their dolls and playing with stuffed animals. Or last night I had two sixth graders over at our house, and they were putting on a show and dressing up in costumes. And then 20 minutes later, they were on the Xbox playing video games, and it was just a totally different switch. And that's where our elementary kids, especially older kids, are at. They are going in between this phase. And so it can be a phase that where we think, well, they're playing with dolls, they're playing with stuffed animals, like my kid would never see that or be exposed to that. And we get this not my kid mindset, like, well, not my kid's not going to do that. And we just have to have this perspective that kids are going to be exposed and they're going to hear things, and we want to prepare them. We want our kids to just have healthy, our kids' healthy sexuality and future is worth identifying, that they will be exposed and we can prepare them. And so we're going to dig into a little bit about, like, in this phase, how we can prepare them. But first, I wanted to give you a couple of average ages, some statistics of just where your elementary kid maybe fits into some of these. So puberty can happen between 8 and 14. The average age is 11 for girls and 12 for boys, but the process can take up to 4 years. For girls to start their period, it typically is at age 10 to 15. However, again, it can be as early as 8. And your daughter's body will start to change 6 months to 2 years before they start their period. The average age that a kid sees porn for the first time is 10. 10 is the average age that a child is first exposed to porn. And 94% of children will see it by the age of 14. There are studies that show kids as young as 8 have come across porn. And the statistics on what happens to marriages in the future is crazy. And it is a problem. And sex is very similar. The average age is 15, but kids have admitted as early as 10 to 12 as having sex. And so these are just right where our kids are: elementary, maybe kindergarten, first grade, not yet, but Hudson's already about to turn 8. Like we're in first grade and we're turning 8. And so we are already so quickly going to get to these ages. And we must not allow it to discourage us, but to encourage us to guide our kids. We can try to protect them as much as possible, but it's our job to guide them, and guide them to know how to handle this stuff. The goal is sexual integrity. So we're not talking about sexual purity, because we feel like that is something that you have or you don't have. And sexual integrity is something that we choose every single day. Every day we make the decision to have integrity when it comes to sexual things. And so by sexual integrity, we mean this: we want every kid to guard their potential for future intimacy through appropriate boundaries and mutual respect. We can help our kids establish lasting sexual integrity that starts at a young age and extends through their entire life, guiding their self-image, how they treat members of the opposite sex, and how they view and enjoy intimacy in marriage. Proverbs 4:23 says, "Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life." But we can't guard our kids' heart for them, but we can create a strategic approach to parent that helps kids begin to internalize truth and apply it to their relational and even sexual decisions. This kind of core belief in sexual integrity doesn't come from a one-time conversation or a sex education class at school. It's developed as parents instruct, dialogue, and model a life of values-centered sexuality. So, as parents, we at every phase have to redefine our role as we help our children develop sexual integrity. And I'm not going to go into every phase because they're doing that in the other breakouts, and you can check those out, especially if you have a fourth or fifth grader. You're going to want to watch that middle school one because you are right around, it's right around the corner. But for elementary, our job is to inform. That's our word. Inform them about how things work so they will understand biology and build social skills. So our job is to inform them. And it is a marathon. It is not a sprint. It is not a one-time conversation. So again, I would just encourage you to go back to the preschool one or jump onto the middle school or high school, like take them all in right now, but for sure, build upon this conversation. So we're going to talk about the elementary phase and informing them about how things work. And I'm going to give you 3 conversations that you can start to have at this phase with even some conversation starters. So as we inform them about how things work, the first thing we can do is give simple answers to biological questions. Kids will ask questions, and parents should answer in an age-appropriate way, but a simple and truthful answer. We need to become active listeners in this phase. Respond to question with further questions. Where did you hear that? What got you thinking about that question? I watched one video as I was preparing for this where a little boy or girl asked Mommy, what does virgin mean? So then she goes into this whole conversation and she's awkwardly trying to talk about what a virgin is. And then the little girl or boy goes, okay, so what does extra virgin mean? And it was the olive oil bottle. And like uh, a simple question or responding question or clarifying question could have saved her a whole lot of conversation that maybe the kid wasn't even asking for. So we want to know what they're asking for so we can give them simple, straight, honest answers. Extra virgin is the whatever on the olive oil bottle. So you can answer your kids with honesty, but also without disclosing more information than your child is seeking at this phase. When a simple answer resolves the child's question, it's okay to move on. You don't need to inform your child about every detail all in one setting. It's far better to give them simple answers over multiple conversations. At some point before the end of this phase, give an explanation for how babies are made, for how kids' bodies will become adult bodies, and for how you see God's plan for marriage and family. So by the time your kid is in 4th or 5th grade, we're saying you should have the conversation about how babies are made, how bodies will change, and how you see God's plan for marriage and family. So that is how we give simple answers to biological questions. The second thing we want to do at this phase is talk about boundaries. Boundaries like your body belongs to you. In the preschool years, parents introduced the idea of privacy, and now is the time to take that conversation one step further. As kids spend more time outside of the home, they spend time in activities, they spend time at friends' house. Parents should have conversations about boundaries, touching, bathrooms, and even teach some prevention words to help protect them from sexual abuse. Talk about who is allowed to see or touch private parts in different circumstances, and talk about secrets. Tell your kids to tell you if anything ever makes them uncomfortable. So it's okay to teach them about boundaries and say, yeah, only mommy or daddy should ever see you without your clothes off. And then maybe even as you're driving to the doctor's office, that's a perfect time to talk about, okay, so the doctor's going to check your eyes and your ears, and they may want to check other parts of your body or whatever that looks like for that age group. But you can say, this is okay because mommy will be with you in the room, or mom will be with you the whole time. And so you're setting those boundaries, you're having those conversations at times that make sense and help them understand what's about to happen and that it's okay. The last, not last, but the third thing we're going to talk about tonight is improve relational skills. So in this phase, we know that kids moving from kindergarten to fifth grade, relationships change a lot, and kids begin to get kind of their circle of friends, or they find their best friends, and friendships will become super important. And in fact, by fourth or fifth grade, peers have incredible influence. And so you want to make sure you're talking about influence, and you're talking about what a good friend looks like, and someone who's going to help you make better choices, or someone who's going to encourage you to make wrong choices. We want to help our kids understand influence and how they can have influence, but how we can also, we need to be aware of how people are influencing us. We as parents should pay attention to who their friends are, who they're hanging out with, even what their friends' family is like, and be aware of choices that friends are making. This is super important to this phase to help kids understand and practice relational skills like honesty, forgiveness, generosity, and respect. So if you have a kindergarten through third grader, here are some things that you may say to start some conversation. Maybe if a question is answered or you're in the middle of the conversation, we never, for both ages, like K3, but also preteen, we never want to just end the conversation. Like, okay, done, glad that's over. We always want to end the conversation with, can we talk more about this another time? Or I loved this conversation. I hope we can have some more conversations like this in the future. You can say it's always okay to tell someone no if you don't want them to touch you. That's teaching them boundaries. You can always say, I'm so glad you asked me, or that's a really good question. Sometimes it just feels good to be affirmed in that. Like, it's not a ridiculous question. It's not a bad question. It's not a stupid question. Like, oh, that's a really good question. I'm so glad you asked me. You can say, God made your body and we want to take good care of it. You can say, God made sex and designed it to be a good gift for a husband and a wife. We do not want to teach our kids that sex is bad, or sex is dirty, or sex is, oh, don't do that. That is not something you should do. It's off limits. We want to teach them that sex is good and it is a gift, but it's done in the right context. Sex is private. It's not something we watch or we look at. When a girl starts to become a woman, she will, and then you can fill in the blank with whatever changes are taking place. Or when a boy starts to become a man, he will fill in the blank with whatever is taking place. If you have older kids, maybe fourth, fifth, or even sixth graders, we can say things like, pornography is dangerous because it often becomes an addiction that can limit your ability to enjoy real sex later. We can say sex can be dangerous outside of marriage. I don't like to hear someone say that word because, and then we can refine the words that they use for their bodies, for sex and people. You can ask the question, what kind of things have you learned? Or what kinds of things have you heard about sex? Or where did you hear about that? What do you think that means? You are beautiful, handsome, just the way you are. So again, that's just a couple of quick, easy conversation starters, or ways that we can get the conversation going. So here's the deal. As we plan to have these conversations, we have resources and tools, and Brett's going to put those in the chat, and then we will send them out in an email form too with this video. But when you're ready to start these conversations, which I hope is soon, you can do it with a plan and do it feeling prepared. So as you talk with your husband or your wife, or as you just figure it out as a single parent, you can come up with a plan. There is a book called Teaching Your Kids Healthy Sexuality, and it's by Jim Burns. And that is a book that I have heard parents read before they start conversations. And then after they read that, they decide, okay, how are we going to have these conversations? Or at least like the conversation of this is how this goes, what role the mom plays, what role the dad plays, who's going to answer what, or who's going to address what, because it can be done together or it can be done separate. So have a plan and be prepared. There's a book called Teaching Your Kids Healthy Sexuality for Parents, but then there's also a series called God's Design for Sex. And there's an Amazon link even that you could go click on it and purchase it right now. But these are books that you can read with your kids. So to get the conversation started, you can read these books together, and you can read them together and then allow that to start conversation. There's a book called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, and there's a junior version and an older kid version. And again, just a book that as they're on technology, which we all know our kids are like crazy right now. This is a great book to just start a conversation about good pictures, bad pictures, and what we can do with that. We also have a Linktree link that will take you to a website that gives you just a list of links that you can go to that have conversation guides, that have books and resources, that have notes on it, that have apps that you can download, all kinds of resources to just feel even more equipped to have this conversation. We're going to put all of this in a package and send it out to families. But we're also going to start something in just a couple weeks on February 24th, which is a Wednesday. We are kicking Wednesday nights off for parents and kids. And so Wednesday nights are going to look different because we want to partner with you. We want to partner with parents. And so starting on the 24th, we are going to have two options that would be so good to keep this conversation going with your kids. If you have fourth or fifth graders, for fourth and fifth grade girls, we're going to have a study called Treasured that's going to talk about body image and going to talk about technology and friends and our identity and our faith and how all of those things go together. And for boys, we're going to have a series called Level Up where they are going to talk about the same things. But both of these studies are for a kid and a parent. So for the girls and their mom can join us for just 6 weeks of discovering more about their body, about their identity, about these things, while boys and their dads can join for Level Up. For K through 3, we're going to have an option for kids to come learn more about their faith and how they can put their faith into action. But while they are doing that, K through 3 parents will be able to join us for Parenting Through the Phases, which is another 6-week study that'll help us have more of these conversations, have critical conversations, not just about sex, but about technology and faith. And so these are tools and resources that we hope that you will be a part of as you jump in, and it helps you be equipped a little bit more. So as we wrap up, I just want you to know it is okay to not know an answer. It is okay to say to your kid, I don't know. That's a really good question. Can I get back to you? Or maybe if you freeze up and don't know how to answer the question, you can say, I'm going to come right back to you. I've heard of the 48-hour rule where you don't let a conversation go more than 48 hours without coming back and addressing it. So as a parent, know that you do not have to have all the answers, that we want to partner with you, but it's also okay just to say, I'm going to get right back to you. That is such a good question. I'm going to come back to you really soon, and we're going to talk about that. Or let's find a safe place in the house away from brother or sister where we can have that conversation. We never just want to shut our kids down. We talk about this in even small groups on Sunday morning. If a kid asks a question about faith, we're not going to shut them down. We're going to say, that's a great question. Let me get back to you. Um, and just make it super clear to your kids that they can come and ask you anything. This backfired on me a little bit because we've had that conversation. You can ask mommy anything and I will tell you the truth. Hudson was asking even about faith and God and is God real? And I said, buddy, I will always tell you the truth. You can always come to me and ask questions. And so for Christmas, when he saw the presents under the tree, he asked, what's inside the presents? And I said, sorry, I'm not going to tell you. And he said, but you said you would tell me anything. So that was a fun conversation. But we do want our kids to know that they can come to us, ask us anything, and we will answer them with simple, straight answers. So check out all those links. There's tons of resources. Help your kids set boundaries. Help your kids know how to just come to you with questions. Start the conversation. Give simple answers to simple questions. Really, really pay attention to the friends that they are having and how they're building those skills, those relational skills. But check out those links, check out those books, check out those resources, and we hope that that helps you just feel confident because you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Hear me say that. We want to have conversations over time, not one sprint, not one conversation. We want to have conversations over time, and we want you to feel equipped. So we are here to partner with you. We are here to help you. We are here to give you more resources. I have so many resources. I'm giving you a few to not make you feel overwhelmed, but I am here. We are here to partner and do this together because we are all on this journey and we all want to be good parents. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for having this conversation. Thank you for getting a little bit uncomfortable. And we just hope that you feel a little bit more equipped to go home and have this conversation together.